kick off this series, I am joined with Janine Sasso. She is up by Chicago, Illinois. Sorry, I put an S on that. And she is known as the Mailer Mom, and she gives out an extraordinary amount of free education when it comes to dominating your farm, what you should send, how you should send it. She has done it. She's tried it. She wrote a whole book about it. So today she is going to just throw all of the information out for everyone to grab on to what you can and learn and just have some fun with us today. So welcome, Janine.
Awesome. Well, that's fun. I am the premiere of your series. I can't believe it. I must have missed that.
I'm sorry. I probably should have let you know.
I would have put better lighting on it. All right. Well, I am super excited. Thanks, Kelly, for having me. This is like awesome. And now it's extra special. So many of you guys, on here.
Go ahead and give us some background, how you got into real estate and really how you decided that you wanted to go into farming and mailing, and kind of just give us a little bit of background on you.
All right, guys, it's story time. One of my favorites. So here's my background. Fresh off the boat in 2010, not quite. I came over to Chicago as an au pair, so a live-in nanny with a group. And I had an early childhood background, that's where I started, and got my degree, interviewed at a daycare, and realized that this is sadly one of the most underpaid industries that is probably not going to give me the freedom that I wanted to also go back and forth to visit my family in Germany. So my mother-in-law, who's been an agent for at this point, almost 30 years, says, why don't you try real estate? And I'm like, all right, low barrier of entry. Let me go give it a try. In the meantime, I had my little guy, I was nannying, and I got my license. So fast forward, I ended up watching 5 children, 2 of them, in addition to 2 of my own, so 7 children total, while I grew my business. Now, I told you my mother-in-law was a real estate agent. Well, there was no referral business to be had from my husband because, that would make for really awkward Thanksgiving dinners, and I really wasn't going to do that. So I kind of was left with, how do I build my business without having a sphere? I didn't go to school here. I didn't grow up here. I, kind of just really worked with a lot of little people. So trying to figure out what was right, I fell into geographic farming. I'm like, this is the area I know best. And I really like to get to know my neighbors. I grew up super small town, 3,000 people town. I introduced myself by my grandmother's name, because this way they know which family to stick me into which category essentially. And this is my upbringing. So I was very always knowing my neighbors. And then I moved here and it was so different. I'm like, I didn't know who lived next to me and I didn't like it. So I just really dove deeper into geographic farming of how can I get to know my community? How can I draw out some of those people? And at the same time, how do I do it while being with my kids? Because childcare wasn't an option, just for the pure expense of it. So I was literally with my kids for the first 2 years of their life for sure. And then our youngest is now turning 4 in about a month or so. So he just started daycare part-time a couple months ago. So we needed to socialize him after the pandemic. So yeah.
Oh, hold on. Sorry. Hold on. I think I
did. I muted myself.
No, I think I did. I was trying to mute some people as they came in. Apologize.
Good. So that's kind of how my entire story came about. And I was really tired of seeing people telling me I need to time block, I need to do all the things that I wasn't willing to do. I'm a millennial. I don't admit to it often, but in so many words, I am a millennial. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. Meaning I do want to be with my kids. I want to grow a multi-6-figure business. And I'm going to do it on my terms and not on a coach that tells me I have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, because I don't like getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I work late. I'm a night owl by my inner clock, however you want to call it. So geographic farming is kind of what I fell into. And then I ended up combining that with direct mail marketing, because I wasn't going to make phone calls with a toddler screaming for the chocolate that mom said no to for breakfast. in the background because that would be kind of awkward. So I ended up with mailers and really dove in on how to make mailers work. And I'll share a little bit about that, I think, today and see where everybody's mind is because most people say mailers are expensive or mailers don't work, right? So
I
let
would
me just
love to know in the comments for everybody that's watching. I would love to know what are some of the things that you tell yourself of why farming wouldn't work. Just like Janine's giving examples of. Like, do you say it's just so expensive? Or do you say in your head, I don't know what to send? Or do you say in your head, I don't know who to send it to? Or I don't know when to send? Like, I would love to see those comments of what you guys are just kind of telling yourself in the back of your head that might not actually be true, or it might also be because of lack of education. You just don't know the answer. So today, our goal is to really dig through some of those doubts and questions that you guys may have and really give you good advice and answers to those questions that then you can take action on. So please feel free to drop all of that in the comments, and then we're going to definitely answer those throughout this interview. So now, Janine, I would love to really just start from the very beginning and how you pick your farm or what your advice is for picking a good farm, what makes a good farm.
All right, well, let's go through the beginnings of the farm. So I bootstrapped essentially my way from, again, a mom with no money to spare. I mean, I couldn't afford daycare, so I wasn't going to drop a bunch of money on, mailers that I didn't have at that point. So my starting point was spending my time and delivering flyers. Now, from the flyers, it grew where right now I'm at 5,000 homes that I'm mailing. So in that span in between, it was not a let me start here. It was a gradual one. So when you start farming, don't be afraid to start smaller because it is a momentum building activity, right? Your goal is to become a household name all around. So when I started small and I saw somebody, I think I'm gonna take the first one. She's like 2,800 homes. I'm like, man, 2,800 homes is a lot to start out with unless you have the budget therefore, right?
And so,
Now,
how many did you say you should start out with, or that you suggest?
well, I started out with just 100 homes that I had available for walking the time.
So, 100.
Stroller, pushing a stroller, right, was my flyer. I know. I actually had somebody remind me that I was on rollerblades at one point. So yes, crazy. I know. I forgot all about.
Oh, shoot. Hold on. I know. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I keep doing that.
You're fine. So if I look at it, the starting point is really what you can do consistently. And for me, it was 100. If you say, you know what, I do have business, I've been in the business 20 years. My, past clients are having my back. They sent me referrals. I do have a little bit of a budget. I do recommend you start probably with 300 to 400 on a mailing route. And we'll get into what routes are in a little bit, but your starting point needs to fit you, right? Comfortably. And I'm, for those of you guys that don't know me, I am known for really making sure everything is the most affordable it can be. This is why I help agents really do their own marketing and cut out that third party, mailing service that will upcharge you for their service fee. So by cutting that out, teaching people how to do it themselves, it saves you obviously money that you can then allocate elsewhere. So ideal starting point though, whatever you can manage. I started with 100. If you can get 300 to 400, you're in a much better starting position than I was. So does that help?
Yeah, I think that's great.
All right. So how do you pick a farm? And this is like what I call how do you determine a profitable geographic farm? And most agents are going about it backwards. Most agents start with looking at a subdivision. They're like, okay, here's a subdivision, little square. This is my farm. That's great. But how do you reach all these homes inside the farm? Everybody familiar with a term called every door direct mail? Like, let me know in the chat.
Yeah, drop in the chat if you guys have heard of it. If you've used it, bonus, drop that also. Let us know if you guys, sometimes you hear it as EDDM.
Correct. So it is a service through the United States Postal Service available to everybody that's out there. And you can essentially get into the mailman's, carrier bag at a ridiculous low cost because they do not have to sort the mail through like this mail sorting machine. It is just his route. It's allocated for that route and he gets it delivered. So it cuts down on cost, which is really, really cool for real estate agents like us. So when we go about it, I want you to look at these routes first before you look at neighborhoods. You want to see how many homes are on that route, and you can go and let's see if I got the right website. I want to say it's eddm.usps.com. Okay, so dropped it in. I want to say that's the website. If not, just Google EDDM USPS and you'll find it. But look at the routes that you're interested in. And then from there, go about finding out your turnover rate. And we'll talk about turnover rate next. But this is step one. Do not start by looking at subdivisions because the cost will be so high that most of us are not able to, really pull the trigger on it the first time. And if you're not willing to pull the trigger on it the first time, guess what? It's going to become another thing on your desk that you're going to get to. 3 years later, you still haven't gotten to it, right?
I want to take a second and just make sure everyone heard Janine that the first step to a successful farm is not looking at subdivision, it's looking at the every door direct because of costs. It's very important.
Wonderful. So when you have that map, you're just going to start plugging in an address of the area that you think you want to be in. Look at the routes, kind of look around. And then from there, we're going to engineer it backwards. So when you engineer it backwards, you're going to go and utilize your MLS. Your MLS will let you draw little, rubber bands in most cases that you will try to match as close as possible to that crazy route. And that route will be crazy. I mean, the mailman does not go in a nice little square in most cases. It's, sometimes it's a crazy zigzag and you might get a street that is outside of your ideal target zone. And that's okay. Okay. That's the messy action that we're going to take. Why is it okay? Because your cost savings that you're getting are going to outweigh anything else. I call it collateral damage if the people across the street get a mailer that is for the subdivision over. Because at the end of the day, they still want to know what is my neighbor, selling across the street. If you pull a CMA, what do? You're going to pull a 1 mile radius for most of us, right? So if we're looking at, hey, what's available in the area, we don't just look in this tiny little square. We're looking about half a mile radius. If you're in the country, you're probably going to look a lot further than that, right? So don't get too hung up on, well, but that's a different subdivision. Okay, don't get in your own way.
I love that, Janine. That's gold.
Right? Should we say that again? Don't get in your own way.
Just take messy action. I love that collateral damage because we do. Like we have those little things stop us from taking action. And so I love that. Just keep going and take action. And who cares if the person across the street got a flyer? Collateral damage.
Collateral damage. And you know what? They might actually just do business with you, even though you had the subdivision across the street in mind. Are you going to be sad about it? No.
You are going to refuse that listing. I know.
I know. It's like, oh, you weren't supposed to get this one. Let me take this one. No. So one of the questions I oftentimes get, can you exclude streets, people? The answer is no. Everybody or nobody. That's the rule. And it helps you too from a discrimination standpoint. You guys know how much we are scrutinized by every advertisement agency that's out there. You're trying to run Facebook ads, you're trying to run Google ads. No matter what, real estate agents are, the most constricted group for advertisement. So don't get hung up on it. Just say, everybody, it is. The other one I oftentimes get is, what if there's other agents? And I'm like, I love when other agents get my postcards. But they're not even going to attempt to try and, mess with my farm.
I've had agents call me and say, oh, I don't think you realize I'm on your farming list. And I'm like, oh, but I do.
Yeah, there's a point to it. So like I said, it is, it keeps the competition essentially down to a minimum because they are like, oh, you know what, she's already mailing there or whatever. And
Oh, that's a good point too. So then it might actually deter them
it
from
does.
trying to go to that farm because they feel like you've already got it. I like that too. I've never thought from that perspective.
Yeah, so that's a good one too. But back to our rubber band in the MLS. So we're gonna rubber band around it because now we want to know what's our turnover rate. So the turnover rate right now is something that we've been watching, and honestly, we love to see turnover rates above 6%. Meaning that if you have, 100 homes in that area, you want to make sure at least 6 of them sell a year. Now, obviously, we want to scale those numbers up because, making a living on only 6 houses might not necessarily be working, but you got to start somewhere. And if it's your first additional lead gen pillar, 6 additional deals is not bad, right? So, but if you look at your turnover rate, you want to see how many homes are in that area. But Janine, how do I find out? Well, remember, we went back to EDDM. They literally will tell you the exact number of homes in that route. Like you don't have to go out counting, you literally have the number right there in front of you. So for example, there is 438 homes in that specific route that you selected. So then you go into your MLS, you draw your rubber band, and you see what's closed. What's closed year to date? What's closed all of 2021? Now, anybody agree that we should probably not count 2021 as a regular year? Be like, yes, probably not. So keep going back, okay? I currently go back 3 years. So I go back to 2021, 2020, 2019. Normally, all your numbers are going to be pretty aligned. You'll be shocked how accurate things get. And you've heard it before, real estate is math, right? I mean, it doesn't make a difference what lead gen strategy you're comfortable with. Maybe you're a door knocker, right? You know how many doors to knock on by the time you've done it for a while. Maybe you're a cold caller. You know how many calls you need to make. It's all numbers. And geographic farming is not different, which is why it's really, really cool. I love when people always are knocking on the old school strategies. I'm like, there's a reason they still work, and there's a reason that most top producing agents have geographic farms. So take notice of that. Look in your area. Like if you have top producers in your area, are they predominantly working a specific area? You will find most of them have a geographic farm, which is just really, really interesting. We're not talking mega teams. We're talking most often old school individual producers that have been in the business like 20, 30 years. And they're doing pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have found that myself. I have also found myself that they're not a lot of those people that do have farms that are kind of the old school realtor generation, that a lot of times that they aren't actually very aware of their farm as much as some of us real focused farmers are. And so I have been able to overtake some of those agents in their farms because they just don't see their competition coming.
Yep. So, sometimes it's just you go on
Oh,
cruise
Connie,
control.
that's not semi old school. Girl, I've been in it 15 years myself. So we're talking the old schoolers.
Like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Love it. So, but that's really where you start on determining, is that an area? Now, right now, we are seeing 5%. Very, very often, I have agents saying, I cannot get above 5%. And if that is the case, stick with what's there, right? I've had a unicorn agent say, oh my gosh, there's a turnover rate of 13%. I'm like, oh boy, I would go all in on that one, right? So just try a couple areas. Now, area 1 didn't work. What do you guys do? You go back to the routes and you select another route. You go back into your MLS. Now, Janine, that's a lot of work. Yes, it is. Geographic farming is essentially selecting your field of soil, right? You know what farmers do? They prep their field, they do their stuff. This is why it's called geographic farming. If you end up going to a field that's just not profitable, that doesn't give you anything, all your efforts, no matter how much watering you do, you're going to be frustrated. So if you spend this time right now selecting an area that is really fruitful for you in the long run, you're going to be so much better off. Anybody watched Ghostbusters, like where the dirt farmer, the new one, and the dirt farmer was on that like farm and nothing would grow there? Don't be a dirt farmer. Okay, make sure that you are actually putting something together for your business, for yourself that makes sense. And just some of the perks, like I can go from my listings to like drop off signs, drop off brochures in a matter of like 5 minutes. Like the proximity that I can cut down on travel time is amazing. I leave for a listing appointment 5 minutes before I have to get there. I get home 5 minutes after my listing appointment. My babysitting expense that I had to take at that point was down to a minimum as well, because I didn't have to have a sitter at my house to compensate for 30 minutes driving there, 30 minutes driving back, 2 hours of appointment time, right? I mean, I just condensed my costs so much with a farm, which was amazing.
Janine,
So,
we did have a question that is very timely. Can you clarify what the 5% turnover rate means? What is a turnover rate? Can you kind of clarify that for us a little bit?
so let's go back to, the area of our route, 438 homes, for example. If you have that rubber band in your MLS, go look and see how many homes have closed in that weird little rubber band shape that we drew in the MLS, and you want to look at that number. Now, let's say you had 10 homes closed out of that 438, right? Now, determining your turnover rate, you'll have, I probably should go with even numbers, huh? Would be so much easier.
You're doing better than I do.
Well, let's see. So what do we say? 10 homes sold in that crazy rubber band shape that we had. So we have homes closed, 10, divided by total homes on the route. And that will give you your turnover rate in total. Say that again. We have homes closed in that crazy rubber band shape. Everybody can figure that out in the MLS. Divided by the total number of homes that we got from the EDDM mapping tool. And you will get your route. So for example, 10 closed, there is 438 homes. Right now I'm at, let's see if we can see that, 0.022. So that's about a 2.2% turnover rate, right? Times 100 for your percentage. So would I go and farm there? No, I don't want to be a dirt farmer, right? I would go about and see if I can find something that's a little bit better. Maybe the subdivision over has 30 homes sold. So let's do
That was great clarification. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's do 30 homes. We have in that route 428 homes because, even numbers are boring. We would be at 0.07, which is then a 7% turnover rate. Now, you might go on feelings and say, but I really like the first farm. After you look at numbers, you will say, I really like that, but I should really make a good business decision. And at the end of the day, don't run your business on feelings, right? By intuition, maybe. You can have intuition of like, I think that might be a good area. Go look at it, but don't just make those business decisions on it. Because if you have to set up shop, one is better than the other, which is definitely the 7% over the 2.5.
Yeah, I'm just scanning through these questions to make sure we're answering them as
Like
we
fly
go.
away here somewhere.
Okay, so let's say you found your target farm. Now what?
All right, now we found our target farm. You're like, now what? Please do not send hello, I'm your neighbor.
Janine and I, we have a similar opinion on the "Hello, I'm your neighbor" cards.
They are so cute. Okay, they are so
They're
cute.
adorable. Yes,
Aren't they? I'm like, I get it.
and
But
if you
you
need
really
something to like break the ice, maybe. But as a general farming card, no.
think there's a really cool Netflix one on Elevated Agent right now that people should go check out. So if you haven't seen her Netflix edition one, go check out her postcard because that one is awesome.
Thank you.
But you always have the what do I send out first? The hello, I'm your neighbor one. Who is that? Who is that about? It's about you. Do you think your neighbor, no offense, cares about you at this point? No.
Yeah.
Right? We want to make sure how can you help them? How can this person help me as a seller make more money than my cousin Freddie, who's going to do it for, a flat fee, whatever. You really want to make sure that there is that value there for for the seller. A great one to send, especially right now after the crazy times we've had, are market updates. Our market updates, people look at real estate prices and they're like, I can't believe our neighbors got this much money, right? Shock. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like those are currently working like gangbusters. Now we're gonna eventually switch them over again because marketers are gonna regulate themselves right now as it is. But it's good information right now for people to look at and be like, man, I can't believe this is what they got. I wonder what I can get.
We have a card in the shop that says, like, a girl is like surprised, and it says, how much equity do you have in your house? And that equity is kind of a buzzword right now that a lot of people are talking and saying and hearing on the TV and on the news. And that has been a really good one for us because we're actually with that card. The team that I'm on, we sent that out to several farms, and that one kind of got a little bit of movement on people that wasn't even considering selling. When you get a card that says we want your listing or whatever, if you're not even considering selling, you kind of toss those because you're not selling. But if you kind of think like, well, gosh, how much equity do I have right now while the market's real hot? Like, we were able to pick up some people that weren't even considering selling by talking about equity, and we pulled words that they were hearing off of the news as our buzzwords.
And it put the seller back in the center spot, right? You're like, how much equity do I have? Not
Yes.
like, oh, Kelly wants my listing.
Right.
It's all
it made
about
it exciting too. Like, you got money. Yeah, let's find out how much.
right? And they do. I mean, right now they are good conversations we're having. I mean, I don't know how many times you guys talked to a seller recently, but you're like, no, I think we should list there. And they look at you like, you have three eyes and you're like all crazy off your rocker. And they're like, you mean like $100,000 less than what you just said, right? And I'm like, no. I'm like, more. So, the surprising conversations that we get to deliver right now, like those, I mean, that is just one of those cool things that came out of it, right? Is it going to stay there? Of course not. But again, we can just deliver these good news right now. And then from there, it's just relationship building and honesty from that appointment.
So your first mailer, you think that you should start out with a general, like a market update? Do you think that if you're targeting a certain location, should that update be specific for that location, or can you do like a general city update? Like, tell me a little bit about that.
So personally, I like maps on my mailers because people like to, kind of look at a map and be like, oh, there's our house, there's our street. They're really big into that. So we like to go really specific in our geographic farms. So again, I told you guys I actually have 5,000 of them. 3,500 on my original farm, and I added a new farm this year of 1,500. So two different areas, kind of spread apart a little, same zip code, but divided by an interstate and industrial things and yada yada yada. So definitely two different areas geographically. Now, what I've done on that one is I ended up splitting them up. Instead of sending them one update for the zip code, I did the extra work and said, okay, let me make sure I get a map of this area and a map of this area, so it's just more relevant. I mean, the relevancy is so important. And people will spot a mailer that is just generically done versus one where you actually take a little bit more time to really customize it to that farm. Okay. Does that help?
Yes, very much so. What
Good.
sizes, like what are you're mailing postcards, like what sizes, what kind of paper?
All right. So I'll send you guys a link to this one, Kelly, so you guys can check it out. But what I have in here is the most common EDDM size that I use. Okay. So you have a couple different options on here. And you got here a 6¼ by 9. Okay, so there's the front on it, and then there is the back on it, along with like bleeds, margins, and all of those. And they are essentially a half sheet of paper. So it's almost this size if you look at it, which is really, really cool because I see the 4x6 being mailed, and I get cost cutting, but the 4x6 is so small. You really do not have enough space to get your message across. You do not stand out enough in between regular envelopes that they get, right? Bills, etc., etc. So I stay away from 4x6s just because I don't see, them being as high value return. If I spend money, I might as well just spend it in a way that people can also actually read what's on there, right? And most often, if you get 4x6s in the mail, look at them. What's on them? You most often have a picture of the house, and then you have the agent's contact information, and then it says, call me. Because there's no other room. You don't have more room than that.
And that is not a strong enough call to action. It just isn't.
No, and you're not providing them value. They drive past that neighbor's house all the time. They don't need a picture of it, so they're not really being grabbed by their mail saying, oh my gosh, what's this teeny tiny postcard about? Maybe actually we should send micro postcards and like hand deliver like magnifying glasses. That would probably be fun.
That's funny.
So, but
do
yeah.
you happen to have any samples around you right now of some of your postcards?
I don't think I have any on me right now because
that's okay. I can, if you can get them to me, I can email out photos of them with the email if that's okay.
Yeah, you can do that. I know I took a picture because I just had a bunch of them delivered, but they are just listed and just sold. So I guess you mind if we sidetrack for just listed and just sold? Because this one here it's a tagline. It's a mailer system beyond just listed and just sold.
I love it.
The reason being, just listed and just sold are awesome. And they're very targeted, right? They should be very targeted right to around the area because we want to be relevant. But just listed and just sold for mailer marketing are icing on the cake. So I do not consider them really, they come with a listing. Like I do those for listing marketing. So they are completely separate from everything geographic farming related. So I guess just a little sidetrack on that one.
I use them sometimes as fillers if I really need to send out something, but I just can't find something of value to send, and that's when I'll send a just listed or just sold. I'm with you though on those. They're tough. We care a lot about, as agents, well, it's the same thing on social media. We care a lot about what we are selling. Nobody else really cares. So when it comes to social media, which is very, very similar to physical farming, you're just farming digitally. That's why we always suggest having different pillars, which is very similar to the different types of content that Janine is putting out. And we always say, if you posted just listed or just sold, that's fine, but you need to post engaging content of value around it. And it's exactly the same thing as what you're sending out to farm. So don't, like, if you're not posting just listed or just sold all the time, and that's only what you're posting on social media, why would you do that to your farm also? So really kind of think about it in those terms as well.
Love it. So let's see, what other questions?
The frequency is one that we've gotten a lot of questions on. So if you can be a little bit more clear on the size of what you're sending out and then how often you send them out to your farm.
Awesome. So frequency, my pet peeve on frequency. What do you guys think? Let's start there. How often should you mail out? What is the standard stuff you guys hear? I know everybody has heard the big coaches, chime in on this one. You need to mail every single month.
Yeah, once a month is what I would probably have said.
See, everybody says this. Now the question is why? Anybody ever said the why? And that's the part where I'm like, okay, if you actually look at who says you need to mail every single month, are most often mailer marketing companies wanting to get you into a 12-month contract.
I love that. That's probably absolutely true.
It's yes, that's a big one out there because it's like easy for them to sign you into a 1-year contract. Then they don't have to come back to you until you're ready to renew. And yes, 12 months, there's a lot that can happen in 12 months, but do you need to mail out 12 months? I personally mail out about 8 times a year. 8. Okay. So that alone is enough on my end to really make it work. Now I can scale this up and scale this down if I need to, but the 8 times a year I found is really helping me stand out enough in the times I need to, spur my spring market. I do carry listings over, most of the spring, summer. So there's a lot of like visibility I have in my farm anyhow. And I want to make sure like they see my sign, right? They see that there's signs on the ground. You have to really look at your own marketing. Just because somebody says you need to mail every single month does not necessarily mean you really need to. If you have the momentum that is then starting to build, that's awesome. The other thing that I oftentimes tell people that they forget, we can't hide behind a mailer. Like as much as I would love to hide behind my mailers, they're great, but I also add an event. So for me, my event that I do in my Geographic farm is a neighborhood garage sale. And it's just a visibility aspect, right? A visibility aspect in addition to mailers. Because now I can do what? I can talk about something else. I don't have to just talk about the mailer that they're getting. It's another touch in a different format in my Geographic farm. And that one can really help you diversify so you do not fall on flat ears. And we just had somebody actually do a foam party. I had another one of my Mailer Clinic members. She's done a block party. The visibility factor can be really, really helpful for you to get in front of people. Because at the end of the day, people need to know you. And open houses. We've just done an awesome, awesome masterclass on open houses. In that one, for example, it's you opening up a pop-up shop at somebody's house so the neighbors can come in, right? Be visible, be approachable, have people come to you, and you don't need to worry about sending something every single month because you're investing some of your time at open houses. You're investing some of your time at events, right? I mean, an event can be as simple as, hey, let's get together at a local park. An event can be as simple as, I would love to organize a food truck, right?
We do a summer movie night, or you can even include this on your pie giveaway if you guys do a pie giveaway for Thanksgiving.
An easy one, especially as it's coming up right now again for Halloween. I ordered a bunch of Halloween photo backdrops, and I just set them up in my yard. And I said, hey, come on by, bring your little one with the costume, and grab some Halloween pictures in front of a Halloween backdrop. They loved it. My expense to it was like barely anything. And now it's like I've done it once and I'm going to continue to doing it over and over. So my investment on that backdrop initially, like I can continue to use it, which is like amazing, right? So just think outside the box a little bit in terms of what would you like to have happen in your own community?
I love that. Um, I would like to kind of go back to the content side of things for a second. And maybe can you give, since you do 8 in a year, can you kind of give us maybe 4 or 5 ideas to kind of kick people off of what they could send out, maybe for their first set or anything like that?
Let's see, I think there's an entire list on here too. I can just rattle that one off for you guys. But we talked about market update mailers. We just done the football schedule, so we have that one available because one of the super, super amazing ones to send are calendars. So religiously, I send my, annual calendar mailer in the mail every single year. That is by far the best mailer I have sent. Typically speaking, I get about a 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 ROI on that. So meaning, the cost of the mailer, I get 10 to 20 times as much back in commissions because that mailer lives on my client's refrigerator, not just in January, not just in February, but it continues living on their refrigerator until it gets replaced with my next year mailer.
Yeah, I love this idea too. 2 things that I have done in the past that have been absolutely huge along with the calendar is the Clean Dirty dishwasher magnet. Has our logo on it, and that is something that people never throw away. And then also we did a magnet once. We should do it again because it was huge, but it was a conversion chart for baking. So people would put that on their fridge and it would say like 16 ounces equals 1 or 2 cups, whatever it is. I don't even know. I can't do math. I
Not a
need the
baker
conversion
either.
chart.
See?
I need that magnet. But those two were 2 magnets that I loved sending out because they never expired either, which is something I loved.
Yeah. So the calendars. So we got annual, we got baseball, we got football. So those are already 3 calendars that you have a long or a longer shelf life with. which really, again, I know direct mail can be expensive, but it's not a swipe, right? I mean, it's a physical thing that holds value. So if you're on social media and you're just swiping, like unless you bookmark it or whatever, after the swipe, it's gone, right? I mean, yes, you can retarget and you can do all of that, but you have to spend more money. So the physical item has a lot of value to people, and we still get leads from our mailers 2, 3, 4, weeks after. I just had somebody message me of like, oh my gosh, I got a lead from my mailer I sent 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that you cannot replicate on
Yep.
any other platform, which is huge.
100%. Social media, that doesn't happen. Social media, it's today and then it's gone. It's
Yeah.
today
So
and then it's gone.
then we got so there's three, right there that you can really plug into your calendar every single year. We talked about the market update mailer. You can send that one out each quarter, right? If you wanted to. So there's like 4 quarters in a year. There's another 4 mailers that you could start incorporating. One of the ones that we really like is staging guides. So, anything that has to do with staging, to give them really some actual tips, not just like, let me come over and do it for you. But actual little things that they can feel accomplished with. And in addition to that, you can add on there, hey, by the way, all of our clients are having, a free complimentary staging consultation. Or by the way, we, offer this, like whatever it is that makes you stand out, you can add that to it. Another one we're getting ready to send out is spring pictures now. I'm in a hot, cold weather market. So our spring pictures, unless we plan ahead, they look like crap by the time February rolls around.
Yes,
And
that is
nobody,
such a great email to send out too. If anyone has an email database, send out. We will come take your pictures now if
for
you're
free.
interested for free if you're interested in selling this winter. That, I mean, and it can be and these are the best emails to send out, because your subject line could be super catchy, like let us know ASAP. That could be your subject line, and then in the email, all it has to say is, if you even are thinking about selling this winter, let us come now and take your photos for free. Just email us back and let us know. That's all the email has to say. Go ahead, Janine. Sorry, I
Oh,
love that.
um, again, you have 4th of July schedule for fireworks, right? I mean, you can provide value on that end, and just outdoor hiking trails. We talked about that one in our last one, because if they are outdoorsy people, if your clients are outdoorsy people, guess what? They will keep that around as well, right? Not every, and you see like a theme of, we're not very just real estate focused. One of my favorites that we've just added this year was a painting guide. What's going to be the color for 2023? Well, who wants to know? Somebody that wants to paint their house, right? That is getting ready to go on the market, because what do all of us say? What do all the HGTV channels say? Painting is the number one thing to get more money for your house.
We are currently working on a whole set of postcards that takes a homeowner through different rooms of their house, and we talk about what the biggest value they can get from updating certain things in that room. So, for example, like we have one that's a front porch. So, if we say, if you paint your wood or stain your wood, you'll get a 5% return on that investment. If you plant new grass, you get X amount. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but we go through like your living room, your kitchen, your bathrooms, your front porch, and that's going to be a whole email, or excuse me, a whole postcard series, to where then you can just send those to your people, and it gives them really great value.
Love that. Um, Another one that you can do is event marketing, right? And that's the one that I oftentimes build in. I told you guys I do a fairly large neighborhood garage sale event. So I incorporate an event marketing mailer where I tell them to register for that event on my postcard. So the postcard design, for example, on that event hasn't changed in the last couple of years. So they expect that yellow postcard to come into their mail for them to sign up um, on the garage sale, right? So you have, I think we're what at least 12 mailer ideas that you can, use between quarterly mailers and everything. But don't think too real estate focused. And I feel like that's where a lot of people get in their head. It always has to do with real estate. Your community will see you when you're not just real estate. because as a person, do you sit down with your friend and have, a cup of coffee and all you talk about is the new listing down the street? No, you actually have personality and your neighbors kind of want to know that. So you want to really go and provide value to their life, which is not just real estate. Let's see.
Okay, so what are kind of we're going to just quickly talk about, now you've sent out your mailers and you're starting to get, well, okay, first let's step back. What are your call to actions that you put on the mailers? How are you getting people to contact you?
So it's not call me. I don't do call me. So that's one of the things where I'm like, oh my gosh, Michelle is leaning in now. I can see her. She's like, what's happening? The best one, what do sellers want to know? What do sellers want to know? How much is my home is worth?
Money.
Is by far the number one call to action in real estate. Now, how do we do it? For me personally, I use automated value tools such as Cloud CMA. That's the one I personally use. Everybody's seen the spike in HomeBot. Again, we'll see if HomeBot's going to stay as popular, as real estate prices are probably not going to go up 20% in a month, right? Because everybody looked at HomeBot and was like, oh my gosh, HomeBot is telling me my house just jumped up another 20%, right? They're celebrating. They're like, yeah, that's awesome. But their monthly reports, in my opinion, are like, I don't know, a little spammy, like a lot, like every month, But the automated value tools, and I know I have like one of those podcasts still on my to-do list because the number one objection I get is like, but they're not accurate. No, they're not accurate. This is why you still have a job today. So you can say thank you for not being accurate. Now, just because they got their neighborhood snapshot, and it's not giving them, most of them do not give them an actual number. Your home is worth $389,000. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
They just give them what's sold around them. And maybe their home is completely custom and about $100,000 more.
Yeah.
I just had somebody message me of like, well, they're off by about $1 million. I'm like, well, yeah, that's a lot, right?
That's a big move.
No, there's a lot. But then again, everything in California, I think she's in California. Everything in California is way over there anyhow. It's like, 8 million, 9 million. What's the difference, right? So if you look at it and you just get in touch with that person saying, hey, listen, and that's one of the first, things I send to them personally, send out a note card. Thanks so much for requesting your, free CMA. I want to make sure that you are getting the most up-to-date value that is actually accurate, and tell them, listen, people have made improvements to their homes and the value in your report might not be quite accurate. I want to make sure you are getting the best, report possible. But in order for me to do that, I got to see the house. Maybe they've smoked in it for 30 years.
Yeah.
We can't get around it.
Yeah, you don't know the condition.
So, you need to get in there. Again, this is why I love that they're not accurate, because this is why we do what we do. This is why Zillow didn't take our job away with estimates, because they're not accurate. So we want to really make sure that we get into their hands right away and say, hey, by the way, I'm not saying this is accurate. I'm just saying that you need to talk to me now.
Are there any other ones that you like to include? Are you including QR codes? Like, how are people actually going to take action?
Oh, I love the QR code question. So I talked to quite a few other people that use direct mail marketing, and we still have not seen a huge, like explosion on the QR codes. Will they hurt your mail piece? No, like put them on there, see if it helps, right? But you also need to see who is it for. My ideal client, the people that I do most of my business with, they are retired, so they are most often 60 plus years old. And yes, they know how to scan menus at the restaurants thanks to COVID and all of that cool stuff. So will it hurt me to have a QR code on there? No. But they oftentimes will send me an email. Like they will go and actually send me an email. Hey, we got your mailer. We were thinking about selling our house. Can you come over on Tuesday? I love those seller leads. I don't want to be banging on their door and be like, hey, are you looking to sell your house? They literally will say, hey, thanks for providing value. Can you now come over? Right? They're comfortable enough to invite me into their house, because at the end of the day, this is oftentimes where we meet our sellers for the first time. Mm-hmm. How many of you guys want to go to Walmart and invite a stranger over to your house? And all of you guys are probably thinking, that sounds awful. I'm like, yeah, but that's what we're asking our sellers to do. So how do we do it if we don't have, a somewhat of a relationship?
Yeah,
So
I always like to have a really easy website also that doesn't normally have anything to do with me, but more about the location. For example, I'm in Topeka, Kansas. So I went and I bought TopekaHomeValue.com. And I put that all over my mailers. And so if people didn't use the QR code, they had a very easy URL to type in. And it was something that they could easily remember because it was our location. It wasn't my name. Because a lot of times people are like, Kelly, who? But they know that they live in Topeka. So it was easy for them to be like, oh, TopekaHomeValue.com. So I highly recommend, if this is something that you're looking into doing, to finding a very easy URL that people can. It's not hard to spell it and it's not hard to remember. I definitely recommend doing that also.
1000%. So you need to give them something for them, right? And you see like the theme that we're following here. It needs to be for them. It's not
Not
Kelly
about
Higgins gives you your home value. It's not about Kelly, right? It's not about us trying to be, hey, I'm here. And guess what? They don't care if you sell 10 houses or 100. They don't care.
yeah.
It's
They
really
care
about
about them
you.
and the attention that they feel like you're going to give them.
Yeah. So that's
Okay, well, this has been really great information. And anybody that is on here still, if you want to drop a question that maybe we didn't get to in the comments, I'm going to start doing a little bit of a rapid fire with Janine on some of the questions that we got that maybe we didn't get to cover. Um, let's say, how much do you think for your mailing location? How many people were in it? 438?
for my
Yes.
mailing. Okay, so I'm mailing currently to 5,000.
Oh, okay. Well, we've had a lot of price questions, so I didn't know if maybe you could give a ballpark of like, if you mail it to 500 people, ballpark, this is maybe what it would cost you.
So the more you mail, the cheaper it will get. The more addicted you will get as well. So right now, for example, at 5,000, my pricing for an entire, like half mailer, let's go with half mailer, I'm at like 38 cents printed and mailed. Now that's 5,000. Now, obviously, you start going up. I want to say at the 500 mark, I got a pricing chart. Hold on. Because I just asked my printer to send me a pricing chart. So there you go. And I like actually marked it. So we have the 6.5 by 9 for about 600. They're at 72 cents. And then here's what happens if you go up to 1,000. Once you go up to 1,000, you're at 59 cents. Now that is full pricing. Like one of my pet peeves is when people give you like baloney prices of like, it's 19 cents. And I'm like, and the other part of
And
it, and they're like, what
yeah,
do you mean? I'm like, no, please, like, I want the full cost and not the baloney price that gets people to click.
yeah. You're like, that's just your print cost. Now let's talk postage.
I know. So, like, what's that, right? So, those are like the prices I give you are like per mail piece, per address, all in. Okay. At least for where I'm currently at. So you had 50, like the jump from 600 to 1,000 right now is from 72 down to 59 cents. And if you look at that like difference already, you're like, oh my gosh. Now what happens if you go up to 1,500 pieces? I know that's a lot. You're like, oh my gosh, it's so many of them, right? But you go down to 49 cents. And from there, I think the cheapest that we have on here is for like 5,000 pizzas at 35 cents. So that was October 2021 prices. Everything got inflated, including the cost of paper. So you're probably going to have a couple cents extra on that one. But it's one of those, things where I always tell people you want to shop around for printers. That's one of the things that I hopefully have you guys take away from. Where's the best place to print is normally always a question that comes up. Start locally, like really start locally and see if there's something that you can, do on a business level. Local print shops, because local print shops will also look over your designs. And if you go to a place like Canva, Vistaprint, you are an order in a machine queue. Okay, so if you print something and that doesn't look or it doesn't qualify or something else happens, you have nobody else that looked over it. So find a local print shop, and then to make it even more affordable, find a vendor that wants to be on a mailer with you. split the cost. Find a way to, because we're not just talking real estate. Remember, we're not just saying, oh, this is just about Janine. This is about community. So find a vendor that you can partner with and you can share cost.
Yeah, I 100% echo that, because those big printer companies, you really are just a number. I like printivity if I'm going to print a lot, but I think your local printers will still probably even beat them.
I just ordered brochures for some of our marketing. So I've used Gut Print for some of the other stuff, not postcards, okay, but for like local big printing stuff, I use Gut Print. I used Print Safari, anything printing related that I can do that's bigger. I will go to some of those big boxes because they have the process down. But if it comes to really making sure your mailers qualify for EDDM sizing, make sure you really know what you're doing. My printer, for example, if I send him my design, he will put that every door direct label on there. Okay, so it's not the name, it just says customer at 123 Main Street. So he will put that on there. If you send it to one of those other companies, Vistaprint, whatever, and they don't put it on there, the postman is not going to do it for you. The postman is not putting print on there. So make sure you know the criteria before you get into spending a lot of money.
There was a couple of questions about the magnets. I like Magnet Street. I don't know who you use, but that's who I've used in the past for my ordering of magnets.
So I use magnetic extractions, but there's, again, just just Google something and you're going to have so many pop up.
Perfect. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on that you feel like is very important, that sometimes people miss when they're looking to get into forming?
Right, I'll end with that one. I differentiate two types of mailers. There are two types of mailers that are out there. One is your lead generation, which we covered in great detail on this one today. The other one is a lead nurture. And that is the one that I use for my farm, for my family members, because for me, this is the easiest way to stay in touch with them. And that one I do send out monthly. So if it comes to your real estate business, before you start branching out, going all crazy on, a new lead gen strategy, make sure you got a lockdown on your SOI, on your sphere, the people that want to see you do good. And yes, it's possible with mailers, but you really want to make sure that this is focus one. And after that, go crazy on mailers, have some fun, and add it into your business. So best thing is I can hang out at the park while the mailman does its job and delivers my mailers. So by the time 9 o'clock rolls around and bedtime, I can open up my phone and start swiping through the seller leads, which is like one of the coolest things. So let me just share one more screenshot, I guess, of my email inbox, so you guys can see what it kind of looks like when a mailer hits the mailbox. I gotta find it.
While you're looking for that, we had a question. Does the material of your mailers matter?
The material, like the material it's printed on?
Yeah.
I think it does a little bit, just because it is a representation of you and your business. So I've tried places such as Express Docs, and every time I get their sample mailer, I'm really disappointed in how it looks. It's just, one of those things where I think if a mailer comes into the mailbox, I really want to try to have it look the best way possible.
So do you use like a really high gloss, or are you more of a matte mailer?
My printer does use a gloss mailer, so it is glossy. Yeah. So let's see. So there's a couple ones. Let's see. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a couple ones that are just, those are all like the seller listing leads, just for mailers, which is one of the nice things, that I don't go out and have to hunt down people saying yes.
My goodness, that's a lot.
Yeah. So it's now it's just following up and converting them into clients.
Well, you gave extraordinary information today, and I really appreciate you taking your time to share with all of us. And I will be emailing out everybody on Friday. I know it's Wednesday on Friday. Give me a second. I'll be emailing out the book. I'll be emailing out this recording and maybe some other images and stuff for some supporting documents of what we talked about today. And I appreciate everyone jumping on for our first pop-up interview and taking your time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it. So we already have someone that ordered your book on Amazon. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Donna. Janine, I really appreciate you, and your energy is always so amazing to be around, and I love that about you. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with everyone and just being open and not a gatekeeper. So I applaud you for that, because so many people in this industry, they don't like to tell their information. So thank you, thank you, thank you.